Illegal now, but normal in the 70s. So this is coming from the channel Recollection Road. Let's go and check it out immediately. I'm going to go ahead and guess a lot of it's going to be like either food safety standards or mostly food safety. That's kind of where I'm at. But either way.
The 1970s was a completely different time. We had less rules to follow, and that meant life was a bit more risky. Things that seemed completely normal have over time become outlawed. So let's take a look back at all the things we did back in the 1970s that are now illegal.
All right, let's jump into it, guys.
Back in the day, kids used railroad tracks as an extension of the playground, walking along the rails, trying to keep their balance, or
railroad tracks.
Using the tracks as a shortcut to school was just part of growing up. Some would place pennies on the rails to see them get flattened, while others dared each other to cross a trestle before a train came through. You could always count on waving to the engineers and covering your ears as a train horn blasted. Today, that kind of fun is strictly off limits.
Good. Like one of these instances here, the first one, absolutely. Don't do this.
Road companies crack down hard on trespassing, and for a good reason. But for those who remember, it was a great adventure that added to your childhood. In the 1970s, a health scare over red dye number 2 led to the Mars company pulling red M&Ms from production, despite the fact that M&Ms never actually used that dye to begin with. It didn't matter though. Public concern was high enough that red M&Ms disappeared over the decade. Meanwhile, people were still eating plenty of other foods that contained red dye number 2, like certain soft drinks and certain cereals, before the FDA officially banned it in 1976. By the time red M&Ms made a comeback in 1987, the perception of red color in foods had shifted back to being safe. At least we hoped.
Yeah, not anymore. I think RFK Jr. is specifically looking to target red number 40, so apparently we have a problem with red dyes. Maybe we should just stop utilizing red in a lot of this colorful candy, guys. Just a thought.
Recollection Road is proud to partner with Legacy Box.
Okay, guys, really quickly, what Legacy Box is it's a way that you can kind of bring old images to modern day like technology, digital format. That's his link if you need it, guys.
To see how Legacy Box can help you do it. Back in the 1970s, pajamas, furniture, and even baby clothes were loaded with flame retardants to prevent fires. At the time, it seemed like a great idea. Who wouldn't want some extra protection?
Yeah, it's probably cancerous, though.
But it turned out that these chemicals were being absorbed into our skin and were linked to serious health risks. It wasn't just clothing either. Old couches from that era still contain high levels of these now banned chemicals. Even though they meant well, the addition of flame retardants proved that sometimes safety measures may deliver an even worse outcome.
Oh man. Imagine. Try to solve a problem, then create another problem. Right? Or just stop, smoking in your living room.
Believe it or not, there was a time when a kid could walk into a store, hand the cashier a note from their parents, and buy a pack of cigarettes. No questions asked. Some kids didn't even need a note. The clerk just knew it was for mom or dad. It wasn't unusual for kids to grab a pack of smokes right alongside a candy bar and a bottle of Coke. Even cigarette vending machines were everywhere, in restaurants, bowling alleys, even gas stations. Today, that sounds completely crazy, but back then, it was just another errand to take care of for mom or dad.
Okay. Yeah, guys, the 1900s was crazy.
If you grew up in the 70s, you probably remember clackers, the toy that was as fun as it was dangerous. These two acrylic balls on a string would make a loud clack as you swung them together, and the goal was to keep them going as fast and as long as possible. The problem was, if you weren't careful, they could smack you in the face, or even worse, shatter into sharp pieces. Schools eventually banned them, but that didn't stop kids from sneaking them around. Because let's face it, once clackers were forbidden, kids wanted them even more.
Oh, well, and they looked to be super popular based off of this image at least.
Cyclamates were a popular artificial sweetener found in diet sodas and low-calorie foods, but it took until 1970 for them to be banned. Scientists claimed they could cause cancer, though later studies questioned whether the risk was really as bad as originally thought. Before the ban, sodas like Tab used cyclamates to get that sweet taste, but after they were pulled, companies had to switch to saccharin. Strangely enough, many other countries never banned the substance and still allow them today.
That's crazy. And guys, also, I've never seen any cans that actually looked like how those looked with that weird shape opening. Guys, what is that?
Don't settle for some of the taste, some of the time.
In the 1970s, cigarette ads were everywhere, on TV, in magazines, and plastered across billboards. The Marlboro Man, Joe Camel, and catchy slogans like "Winston tastes good like a cigarette should" made smoking look like the ultimate cool factor. But by 1971, the US had banned cigarette ads on TV and radio, forcing tobacco companies to get creative with their marketing. They shifted to print ads, sports sponsorships, and even product placements in movies. Even though these ads are long gone from the airwaves, their influence on generations of smokers is still undeniable. Speaking of smoking, if you flew on an airplane during the 70s, you'll remember that a smoke-filled cabin was just part of the experience. The armrest ashtrays were in full use, and even though there were designated smoking and non-smoking sections, the smoke didn't exactly stay put.
Wait, hold on. Wait, 1 second here, guys. Are you telling me that in the 1900s, they allowed people to fly on an airplane, recycled air, okay? And there were non-smoking and smoking sections, but that didn't matter. That didn't matter at all. Bro, imagine every single place you went, apparently, on this airplane, you were doing nothing but inhaling secondhand smoke, even if you were a non-smoker. There probably should have been like a smoking plane. Matter of fact, guys, no smoking on the planes. What is that? Never heard of that in my life. Armrest ashtrays on an airplane? Oh, my God, guys. I'm gonna ask my mother about these things. These are absolutely wild. So I was definitely -17 in the 1970s. All right, -17. I wasn't even there. I wasn't there in the 80s. Not like that. Late 80s. But all right, it's just shocking to encounter, like to hear things like this actually existed at one time in our life.
Flight attendants dealt with clouds of smoke, and non-smoking passengers just put up with it. The smoking ban on airplanes started small, with it being phased out on domestic flights shorter than 2 hours in 1988, before it was completely prohibited in 2000. Now, lighting up on a plane is unthinkable, but those old no smoking signs are a reminder of how different things used to be. Lead-based paint was on just about every surface in the 70s.
Really?
On walls, toys,
Lead?
and even cribs.
I'm gonna cover my house in lead. What is this, guys?
It made colors more vibrant, and the paint lasted longer. And nobody thought twice about small children chewing on those lead-covered toys.
Of course.
When the serious health risks became undeniable,
Is there anyone alive from the 1970s, guys?
paint was finally banned in 1978, but many homes built before then still contained lead paint. Removing or mitigating it was expensive, and to this day, people still have to be cautious when renovating older homes. It's crazy to think that something so common turned out to be such a hazard.
Asbestos also. Because, guys, I've renovated a couple of houses from the 1960s. Yeah, absolutely. You walk inside of these structures, you look around, and you're like, bro, is that lead paint over there? All right. All right.
Lawn darts seemed like good, innocent backyard fun until you realized they could cause serious injuries if they hit someone. These heavy metal-tipped darts that were meant to pierce the ground caused several bad accidents, including a few fatalities. That's when parents started demanding they be banned. By the mid-1980s, they were pulled from store shelves, although many people held on to their original sets.
So basically like arrows of sorts. You throw in... Oh, you guys are a wild bunch. You guys were a wild bunch.
The modern version of the game is much safer, but let's be honest, the thrill of playing lawn darts was really about dodging death.
I'm
For kids growing up in the 70s, candy cigarettes were the ultimate way to feel grown up.
Okay, I definitely remember these in the early 90s. I definitely remember these. That, but I'm not sure they actually had like actual brand names on them. Well, no, Camel, I think.
They came in packs
Lucky
that looked
Strike.
just like real cigarette brands, and some even had a powdered sugar coating that let you puff out fake smoke. Parents didn't think much of it, even though they were basically encouraging smoking with
Right.
fun and delicious candy. Eventually, concerns over promoting smoking led to bans in many places, and the packaging for candy cigarettes had to change drastically. They could no longer mimic real tobacco packs, and the word cigarettes was removed altogether. Back in the 70s, every gas station pumped leaded gasoline, and no
Okay.
one batted an eye. It helped cars run smoother and prevented engine knocking, but in reality, it was polluting the air and causing serious health issues. Studies linked lead exposure to developmental problems in kids, leading to a slow phase-out that started in the mid-70s. By the 1990s, leaded gas was mostly gone, and today it's hard to imagine we used to willingly pump a neurotoxin into the air. Just another example of how times have changed. Believe it
Yeah, guys, I definitely figured there was going to be a lot of like health-oriented things, food safety standards. But there are definitely a couple other things that I couldn't even fathom because in my head it just doesn't make any sense.
or not, some high schools actually had designated smoking areas for students in the 1970s. It was
How long were kids in high school in the 1970s? Was it that drastically different? Bro, what is going on here? Like, let me see. Hold on. I finished high school when I was 16, 15, turning 16. What was the age required?
wasn't just the kids either. Teachers were puffing away in the teacher's lounge, and sometimes even in the classroom.
In the
It was
classroom.
quite common to see students lining up along a smoking wall and lighting up in between classes. By the late 80s, the
Getting them-
smoking
starting them young.
areas started disappearing. But for many years, smoking at school was part of the daily routine. Today, the idea of a high school smoking section seems almost unbelievable.
Yeah, it does.
The original
does.
Easy Bake Oven was every little girl's dream toy because they could bake real tiny cakes. The only problem
What? Like, how many fires did that start, guys? How many?
the incandescent bulbs that did the cooking got seriously hot enough to cause burns or even melt the plastic on some models. After a while, safety concerns led to many redesigns, and modern versions shifted to a safer heating element. But for those who remember the original, there was something magical about making your own little cakes under the glow of a 100-watt bulb. It might not meet today's safety standards, but it sure
Probably
made
not.
childhood sweeter.
Probably not. I'm not sure that's going to make it. No.
Recollection wrote,
All right, guys. All right, guys. Oh my God. How is there a generation existing now? Okay. A lot of these things just make no sense at all. Don't get me wrong. The 70s was probably super fun. All right. Super fun. I can imagine how fun it was. Right. But it seemed a little like troubling. Like, I don't know if I want to sit here and, on a 6-hour international, plane flight, just inhaling someone else's, cigarette smoke. I'm not sure. That's the thing that I actually specifically want to do. Okay? That's not for me. It shouldn't be for you neither. You deserve better. All right? But all right, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly. The fact that you just made it to the end of the video says a whole lot, actually. We have a couple other channels. MrLboyd Music, MrLboyd Movie Reacts, along with MrLboyd Discusses, where I just generally speak about the things that specifically matter to me. But in the meantime, I'll catch you guys later.